Welcome to the part 3 of the pharmacotherapy of type 2 diabetes. We will learn the pharmacology of sulfonylureas in this lecture. We have first generation and second generation sulfonylureas. Tolbutamide is first generation, glibenclamide, glipizide, glyclazide and glimepiride are the second generation sulfonylureas. Glibenclamide tablets, glipizide tablets, glyclazide tablets, glimepiride tablets. Sulfonylureas were discovered as a result of the observation of the unwanted effect of hypoglycemia produced by sulfonamides, which were one of the first antimicrobials to be used in the 1940s. The first sulfonylurea, tolbutamide, was introduced in the year 1957. In the same year, metformin was introduced. The second generation sulfonylureas are preferred because they are more than 100 times as potent as the first generation. Sulfonylureas enhance the secretion of insulin. They are insulin secretagogues. Hence, they are ineffective in type 1 diabetes because there is no insulin to be secreted. This results because of destruction of the beta cells. All sulfonylureas have the same pharmacological action. They cause a brisk release of insulin. They cause hypoglycemia in normal people and type 2 diabetics, but not in type 1 diabetics. Even in type 2 diabetics, some of the patients may not respond because they may have less than 30% of the functioning beta cells, and we call them as primary failures. Sulfonylureas have a pancreatic and an extra pancreatic action. They act on sulfonylurea receptors present on the beta cell membranes. They block the ATP sensitive potassium channels, because of which the efflux of potassium ions is reduced. Intracellular potassium is enhanced, giving rise to depolarization of the beta cell membrane. This causes increased intracellular calcium, giving rise to exocytosis of insulin. Sulfonylureas enhance phase 2 insulin secretion with very little effect on phase 1. This diagram tells us the pancreatic actions of sulfonylureas. As we use sulfonylureas for a considerable long period of time, the insulinemic action comes down. This is probably because of desensitization of the sulfonylurea receptors, but the carbohydrate tolerance is maintained. How does this happen? This is because of enhanced sensitivity of the peripheral tissues to the action of insulin. How does this happen? So sulfonylureas cause better glucose control, because of which there is reduced insulin concentrations in the plasma. This gives rise to reversal of the downregulation of the insulin receptors, or probably even an improvement in the transducer mechanisms. Hence, the sensitivity of the peripheral tissues to the action of insulin is enhanced in the extra pancreatic action of sulfonylureas. Now, glimepiride has a stronger extra pancreatic action compared to the other sulfonylureas. Sulfonylureas are well absorbed. They are highly plasma protein bound. They have a volume of distribution of 0.2 to 0.4 liter per kg. They are metabolized in the liver and excreted in the urine. The dose of these compounds should be reduced in liver and renal insufficiency. The daily doses of glibenclamide is 2.5 to 15 milligram, glipizide 5 to 20 milligram, glycoside 40 to 240 milligram, glimepiride 1 to 6 milligram. Since sulfonylureas act for nearly 12 to 24 hours, we can give them as 1 or 2 divided daily doses. Sulfonylureas have a lot of drug interactions. They could be kinetic or pharmacodynamic. It could be due to displacement of sulfonylureas from the plasma protein binding sites, for example by salicylates. At the level of metabolism, barbiturates can induce the metabolism of sulfonylureas through microsomal enzyme induction. Ketoconazole and other inhibitors can interfere with the metabolism by inhibiting the cytochrome P450 enzymes. Pharmacodynamic interactions could be synergistic or antagonistic. Non-selective beta blockers like propranolol, central sympatholytics like clonidine and methyl dopa have a synergistic action with sulfonylureas. Corticosteroids, thiazides and furosemide can have an antagonistic action with sulfonylureas. Hypoglycemia due to sulfonylureas can be severe and unpredictable. This is because sulfonylureas induce insulin secretion irrespective of the plasma glucose concentration. That means even at low plasma glucose levels, sulfonylureas will induce the secretion of insulin, and this can give rise to dangerous, severe and unpredictable hypoglycemia. Non-specific gastrointestinal adverse effects can be seen, for example nausea, vomiting, loose stools, abdominal pain, etc. Hypersensitivity reactions like rashes, purpura, photosensitivity, transient leukopenia and rarely agranulocytosis. Sulfonylureas induce weight gain of 1 to 3 kilograms in the diabetics because they enhance the secretion of insulin, and insulin always increases body weight because there is a lot of fluctuation in the plasma glucose levels, and the sudden hypoglycemia will make the person hungry and the person tends to eat more. This leads to weight gain. Sulfonylureas are discontinued in pregnancy, and pregnancy is an indication for introducing insulin even in type 2 diabetics. What is the status of these compounds in the treatment of type 2 diabetes? Sulfonylureas are not the first line drugs. They are added to metformin in case of inadequate response. That means if with metformin the glycosylated hemoglobin levels do not go to less than 7%, then I can add sulfonylureas to metformin. Efficacy is similar to metformin. The reduction in glycosylated hemoglobin levels are similar, 0.8 to 1.2%. Sulfonylureas can accelerate beta cell failure because they promote beta cell apoptosis, and every year 5 to 10% of type 2 diabetics on sulfonylureas become secondary failures. They do not respond to sulfonylureas anymore because of beta cell apoptosis leading to beta cell failure. Let us compare metformin and sulfonylureas. Metformin is euglycemic. It is anti-hyperglycemic but not hypoglycemic, but sulfonylureas are hypoglycemic. Metformin induces weight loss because it produces anorexia. Sulfonylureas produce weight gain because they are insulinemic in nature. Metformin prevents both micro and macrovascular complications of diabetes because it reduces plasma glucose levels and also reverses insulin resistance, whereas sulfonylureas prevent only microvascular complications because they only reduce plasma glucose levels. They do not overcome insulin resistance. Hence, they cannot prevent macrovascular complications significantly. Metformin promotes beta cell health and prevents beta cell failure, whereas sulfonylureas accelerate beta cell failure because they promote beta cell apoptosis. Metformin is a first line drug in type 2 diabetes. Sulfonylureas are not the first line drugs in diabetes. They are added to metformin in case of inadequate response. Thank you very much. Happy reading. We shall continue with the pharmacology of the other antidiabetics in the forthcoming lectures.